the gender-sensitive or gender-inclusive curriculum. The ideas presented in this slide deck stem from an understanding of what an inclusive curriculum is about in a general sense, but is focused on the design and delivery of the curriculum, particularly towards enabling students from gender and sexual minorities realise their full potential. This slide gives an overview of the presentation, which includes definitions of the curriculum, its elements. It distinguishes between the visible and the hidden curricula and the effect of the hidden curricula. It also covers creating an action plan which should help you address LGBTQ issues and the curriculum so that you'll end up with a gender-sensitive curriculum. There are many definitions of the term curriculum. The first one is the totality of student experiences that occur in the educational process. This is a broad definition, and to my mind it could easily apply to experiences inside and outside the classroom which impinge on learning. In the second definition, curriculum is described as the knowledge and skills students are expected to learn, which includes the learning objectives that they're expected to meet. And in the third definition, curriculum is the learning units, the class activities, the books, materials, videos, presentations and readings used in a course, and the methods used to evaluate student learning. And what you see on the screen here is my preferred definition, and it challenges lecturers who teach what they think are neutral subjects to consider how they can make their curriculum a vehicle for transforming society through the transmission of norms, values and beliefs. So take a short pause now and consider how your curriculum measures up to this definition. You can see the definition written on the screen again. So let's look now at the elements of a curriculum and apply it to one of the modules you're currently teaching, or on the other hand to all the modules of a programme. And the elements may consist of, number one, purpose. What will the curriculum achieve? For example, graduates will be successful in the workplace. Number two, learning outcomes. What will the student be able to do on completion of the module or the programme? Thirdly, a teaching strategy. What teaching approach will you use? Will it be through lectures, group work, tutorials, field trips, the use of guest lecturers, the types of assessment, blended learning approaches, synchronous, asynchronous, and so on. And then fourthly, the content. What will you teach and when? And maybe the order of the topics and the relative importance of the topics has to be considered. And the essential resources are next. What will you use to teach your class? Will it be done through a virtual learning platform? What textbooks will you use? Videos, notes, and so on. And then standards alignment. How do you intend to keep up to date with what's going on in your subject in the real world, with codes of practice and so on? And finally, maybe some kind of a verification method or a feedback method. Are you doing a good job? What do you see in front of you in terms of levels of collaboration and participation, or even retention and absenteeism, or things like the results and so on. So student feedback, surveys and formative assessments, question and answers will give you an idea of how things are actually going. And moving on now to the types of curriculum, and I'm looking at two types, the visible curriculum or the hidden or invisible curriculum. So we look at the visible curriculum first, and this is also known as the explicit curriculum. For example, you might be teaching maths or art, and the visible curriculum is what we intend to teach. And for many lecturers, it's described to a good extent in our module descriptors or syllabi. And it involves making decisions on the content of our modules, the topics, the reading materials, the assignments, in order that the student meets the learning outcomes of the module, and that these learning outcomes contribute to programme learning outcomes. And the visible curriculum is normally written down, for example, in a module template or a module descriptor, and it includes the planning and design of your delivery, which could be broken down into lesson plans or schedules, and might include an assessment schedule or calendar. And at this stage, you might be taking into account the type of students who are coming into your class, their level, their prior knowledge, and so on, and maybe taking into consideration of the fact that they are working students, and that you might take into account how the course will be delivered in terms of flexibility, and maybe providing recordings. And you might be considering the nature of the workload and the timing of the workload, and also maybe considerations for students who might have learning differences and making appropriate accommodations. And also thinking of international students who might have language difficulties, maybe different religious observances. And already you're stepping into the area of EDI, and how about extending the same thinking to the LGBTQ students. In terms of how you teach, again, thinking about including activities like lectures, tutorials, group work, discussions, and problem solving. And all of this leads to a space where learning happens. So the invisible or hidden curriculum refers to the unwritten rules, values, and normative patterns of behaviour which learners are expected to conform to and learn in the classroom. And it was coined by Philip Jackson in his book Life in Classrooms in 1968. And it's not necessarily a negative term. He argued that we need to understand that education is a socialisation process, and that students absorb lessons that may or not be part of the formal course of study. Kelly in 2009 describes the hidden curriculum as the things which students learn because of the way in which the work is planned and organised, but which are not in themselves overtly included in the planning or even in the consciousness of those responsible for teaching and learning, or those responsible for the management of education. He adds that the hidden curriculum are the concepts which are informally and often unintentionally and even unconsciously taught in our classrooms. It's called hidden because it is usually unacknowledged or unexamined by students, educators, and the wider community. There is a danger of the values and lessons reinforced by the hidden curriculum being the accepted status quo. And it should be noted that a hidden curriculum can reinforce the lessons of the formal curriculum, but it can also contradict the formal curriculum, revealing hypocrisies or inconsistencies between a school's stated mission and values and convictions and what students actually experience on the ground and learn while they're in school. For example, a school may publicly claim in its mission or vision statement that it's committed to ensuring that all students succeed academically, but a review of its performance data may reveal significant racial or socioeconomic discrepancies when it comes to test scores, graduation rates, and other measures of success. And because what is not taught in school can sometimes be as influential or formative as what is taught, the hidden curriculum also extends to subject areas, values, and messages that are omitted from the formal curriculum and ignored, overlooked, or disparaged by lecturers. The academic, social, and behavioural expectations established by schools and educators communicate messages to students. A lecturer may unconsciously hold certain students to lower academic expectations, which may have unintended or negative effects on their academic achievement, their educational aspirations, or feelings of self-worth. For example, students from different cultural backgrounds, such as minorities, immigrant students, students with disabilities, basically feeling sorry for them and allowing them submit their assignments late or adding marks. The values promoted by schools, educators, and peer groups may also convey hidden messages. For example, a lecturer who values rules and certain behaviours in class might unconsciously treat students who are punctual, who wait their turn to ask questions. It might treat them in a more favourable way to students who take more initiative or question authority or have more demonstrable personal expression. Similarly, if biased or prejudicial behaviours and practices are tolerated in the university at large or in the classroom, students may be influenced by these values either explicitly or implicitly. So how we recognise, integrate or honour diversity and multicultural perspectives may convey both intentional and unintended messages. The expectation that immigrants, for example, assimilate into Irish life by requiring students to always speak English and maybe treating them as problems to be looked after by somebody else, particularly other supports. And it might also be like a flip-flop between totally ignoring other cultures and minority groups versus celebrating their existence. And this can all lead to feelings of either isolation or exclusion. And they're the worst outcomes. The way that an academic programme is organised and operated may also have unintended effects on the student's sense of cultural belonging, self-worth or academic potential. While some of the following might be done to support students, there may be the unintended consequences of treating them differently as they are separated from their peers. For example, non-English speaking students separated from their peers for most of the school day in order to take English language classes or catch-up classes. Students with physical or learning disabilities being enrolled in specialised programmes. Students with learning differences doing their examinations away from other students. And in the context of my work, there is the hidden curriculum of heteronormativity. And this curriculum erases LGBTQ plus identities. It silences their voices through the privileging of heterosexual identities. And if we look at subjects like mathematics, which are deemed neutral to social justice issues, this reinforces the hidden curriculum of heteronormativity. You hear LGBTQ issues do not belong in the maths class. They should be covered in other, more suitable subjects. When students fall outside the heterosexual norm, there is a risk that other students and teachers push them back in line with heteronormative expectations of behaviour. And bullying behaviours, such as the use of words like fag, queer or dyke, might be used to shame students with identities outside the norm. And the influence of the hidden curriculum may positively or negatively affect behaviour, perspectives and attitudes of students, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a lecturer who's a poor role model or a student who's overtly homophobic or transphobic will influence other students to act in the same way. In fact, there could be a strong pushback against this behaviour. And the hidden curriculum can positively or negatively affect behaviour, attitudes, perspectives and opinion. And in terms of behaviour, simply raising your hand to speak in turn. And now this is not normal behaviour when we're chatting with friends. It's like an unwritten rule, it could be spoken aloud by the lecturer and reinforced in class by the behaviour of other students. And it transmits a value of being patient and courteous and giving other people a chance to talk. It's associated with democracy and could be taken Also in a negative way as a form of control or a broken rule if the lecturer doesn't enforce it at times and there's a free-for-all. And when we come to attitudes, there could be attitudes to deep learning versus strategic learning just to get through exams. And I picked this attitude up very strongly from a group of students who were juggling work and college and had the pressure of an employer to do extra shifts. And you could feel their pressure and impatience at times in the classroom. And when we're talking about perspectives and opinions, we're talking about opinions formed in the classroom environment and from classmates. And here's some examples of things taught through the hidden curriculum, which may be positive or negative, and may include the social expectations of gender, language, behaviour, or particular morals in the classroom. Let's say a student is reprimanded for a homophobic slur, but nothing more is done about it. The message is that this doesn't really matter. Maybe it seems like downplaying the issue. Rules being enforced inconsistently. Some people getting away with breaking rules more than others, or seem to get better deals than others. The social influence of fellow classmates, particularly in relation to a work ethic. They may influence each other positively or sink to the lowest common denominator. There's also the influence of the lecturer, maybe who sets very high expectations. And our teaching and instructional strategies may also have a very positive effect on the values and attitudes and behaviours of our students. For example, the use of project-based learning or problem-based learning. It may communicate specific messages, for example, that skills such as critical thinking and problem solving and working together, and attributes such as persistence and resourcefulness are valued and are important. And being informed about local issues are valued and important in the case of community-based learning. And group projects help us to get to know other students and work together on problems, and then harnessing the students' fund of knowledge and experience to work on meaningful problems. This means getting to know our students and valuing the knowledge and experience they bring into our classrooms. So if we use what we've learned so far and bring it into the development of a gender-sensitive curriculum, and this type of curriculum shows the diversity of the society we live in. It includes instructional materials such as textbooks, handouts, workbooks, whatever, which are gender neutral or gender sensitive. It includes instructional materials which highlight successful gender minority people related to that subject. And it includes assignments which encourage students from diverse backgrounds to work together collaboratively and in a friendly manner. And a gender-sensitive curriculum requires giving support to lecturers, giving them resources which include a framework for how to embed gender-sensitive matters into the curriculum. And it builds on good practice, particularly the successful practice shared by peers. And if we look at the gender-sensitive curriculum in terms of coherency as far as LGBTQ issues are concerned, then this curriculum is not fragmented or tokenistic. Topics related to LGBTQ issues are not just dropped in like a box-ticking exercise. This curriculum does not only cover these issues when certain LGBTQ events occur. This curriculum includes the rainbow of minority genders, not just women, and it also includes intersectionality. For instance, LGBTQ people of colour, of faith, with disability, from different social classes, and so on. So take a little bit of time now to reflect and answer the question on the next slide. Is my curriculum a gender-sensitive curriculum? There's no harm in stepping back and taking stock, being honest with yourself, studying what is happening right now with your curriculum, doing it without making any changes, just observing. And asking yourselves, are there tacit negative messages emanating from the curriculum which can be detrimental to the students' learning experience, particularly the gender minority students? And then asking yourself, what exactly is the effect of the deficiencies in my curriculum and LGBTQ students? Of course, you should also look at the positive messages that are emanating from your curriculum. And maybe when you take stock, you put your hand up and you acknowledge that maybe your knowledge around making your curriculum inclusive is lacking, and maybe you don't know how to do it. So maybe it's time to learn a bit more. It's time to avail of the resources within the university and online resources as well. And it's time to adopt a can-do attitude and see what can be done. And if you start with the things you can take control of, for instance, saying, I can learn more about transphobic and homophobic behaviour. I can learn more about the lived experiences of Irish third level students who are lesbian, gay, and so on. And I can learn about some of the terminology, the pronouns, maybe something about misgendering, dead naming, and how this makes a person feel. And maybe you can find out why gender neutral bathrooms are important, and find out about issues facing LGBTQ people of colour, of faith, with disability, and so on. You might learn more about the internal supports that are available within the university and external supports. And maybe you can attend some CPD, such as unconscious bias training or EDI training. And the key thing is, make a start, no matter how small. And you could begin with seeking feedback on your curriculum as it is right now. Seek help from your students to address stereotypical content and make your notes and delivery more inclusive. Seek help from colleagues who have already made progress in this area. And as you review, make changes step by step and seek more feedback. Find out how you're doing. As you learn more and more about queering your curriculum, making it more gender sensitive, why not network with others and share your ideas with them? Push for change in policy and procedure to support your LGBTQ students and include LGBTQ topics in your curriculum, irrespective of whether you're aware of LGBTQ people in the classroom or not. And learn how to challenge bad behaviour in an appropriate fashion. So we're almost at the end. So formulate your own action plan. Set a goal, decide where you will start, put a timeline to it, assess how you're going along, get feedback from students or colleagues, and start all over again, picking a new activity.